Well, back out again today. I got a little bit of work to do. A couple of things I need to get sorted out is how to turn around down in here instead of having to turn around in the mud hole. So that means I got some cleanup to do. And I need to get back to some of these trees in here. This one I took down last. I pulled it off the stump last video. I went down there for a while and you can probably see the clearing. I pulled some trees out of there. So I figured I'd come back here today because I only have an afternoon. I'm going to cut some of this up and see if there's a saw log inside it. There might be, because there was a few branches alive, so you know, maybe cut to there or something like that and see if there's anything in there. And then I have, I don't know, 5 or 6 back in here I'm going to try to get to, but the key is try to get to. Like that one's straight dead. There's no sense in me even trying to drag that up for anything other than firewood. And there's a couple like that, but there's also a couple that are really nice in here, you know. But either way, they got to come out. The firewood has to come out for firewood. I really don't have a whole lot to talk about today because I got work to do. And really what my channel's about is sharing the experience versus trying to be some expert. Pretty much been that way since the beginning. That's a hickory tree, so I'm going to leave it. That one's really dead. It's dangerous too because it's going to split right down the middle. So maybe I just have to drop that and call it firewood, get it over with, leave it out here. But I've got to cut my way back into here more. And let's see what we have back here to see if it's worth me really going whole hog at it. Look at this one right here. That's a pretty tree. That's all alive. Well, it came from back there, and the property line is right here. So all that stuff is on me, no problem. There's a nice one right there. You know, the shame is I'm probably the only place around, see there's a bunch up in there too, that doesn't have the bug. And not yet, you know. But all the foresters keep telling me it's coming. Otherwise, I just leave these right alone. You know, we talk about the saws and stuff like that a lot. You know, we talk about the performance of the saws and because that's our focus, right? I guess there's 2 points I want to make while I'm sitting here pontificating on nothing in particular. Is if you notice, I'm running saws that aren't, you know, particularly special. They're neither ported, they don't have anyone's initials on them, yet wood still hits the ground and the log buyer still buy the logs. And the second thing, if you're paying attention, the actual cut time, while it may be high on the video, and the overall process is very low. Where I spend most of my time is clearing in roads and dragging those things up the hill. That takes up way more of my time than the actual saw time. So on an operation like this, yeah, no doubt I like a crisp running saw. I'm kind of particular about that. And I like my ported saws from time to time. But they're really not that important. What's a lot more important is things like that skidder winch. And that makes me lots and lots more money, you know, to buy something like that skidder winch than to spend a bunch of money to have overly expensive saws and then spend more money to have someone dig at the cylinders and make them fractionally better. You do that because you want to, and if you're a pure cutter, all you do is cut, you can probably come up with some justification. But for 90% of the guys who are a one-man operation, you do it because you want to and you're interested in saws and it's kind of cool, but you don't do it because there's some big numerical benefit. Just simply is not. And that's the point. And I don't like beating on that, because there's guys that basically make their entire online existence about ported saws. Often because that's what they do. They make their money porting them. That's what they do. So obviously they got to justify their existence. I guess if I have a pet peeve, it's like one of the fanboys of one of the guys. Hey, such and such a builder says he won't take on certain class of saws because of all the problems he's had. And I'm not going to get into it with those guys. I'll just say fine, do what you want, spend your money how you want. But the person or the builder who will lay that out as a premise probably is just doing that for marketing reasons. And one of the funny things I've seen over the years is, same like dealers. My favorite dealer doesn't want to get into a specific brand. It's not because it's a bad brand of saw, it's a good brand. They make good stuff. But for him to have to invest in both the training and the knowledge, but also the inventory, well, he's not going to do that, because all of his customers are happy with the brand that he has. Happens to be Husqvarna. And he's got very, very good results, to the point where there's no other steel dealers in his area, because the Husqvarna brand did what was required for the professional users in that area successfully. And he was a good dealer with good customer support, good skills, and they were satisfied. Therefore they kept buying Husqvarna, because the other brand, equally as good, didn't have as good a dealer in the area to do support for the professional. Moral of the story is, every one of those guys, all of them, that have a business based on a brand, are going to come up with reasons why that brand's the best one that ever existed, because it's called sales and marketing, not because it's based in absolute fact. And if you remember back in the day, I used to get all upset about the X-Torques because of the PTO side bearing. Well, sure, there was a statistically greater chance of having problems during those years, but Husqvarna eventually worked that out. So for me to make a generalization that all X-Torques are garbage, well, that's wrong. What I can say, honestly, is I prefer to work on original editions than the X-Torques, and that's legitimate, but that's my desire. Anything past that is me rationalizing why I happen to like the OEs better than the X-Torques, because after Husqvarna did their changes and modifications, the X-Torque is reliable statistically as the original editions were. You know what I'm saying? So when I see a fanboy come online, drop a message into my channel about all 500 series Husqvarnas are junk because one particular builder says they are, I want all you to recognize that, yeah, that guy may have said that. He might have some basis in it. But what I'm going to tell you is the main issue is, number one, doesn't understand it. Number two, doesn't want to understand it because he's got a series of saws that he can do successfully, and the customers he has are satisfied with that. And number three, one of the phenomena of the last 10-15 years are like these online cults where a particular builder or a particular philosophy takes its life of its own as if it's some gospel, you know, it's engineering fact. And none of these guys are engineers. They're all excellent craftsmen in some case, better marketing than even some of the saw companies and others. And will always try to maximize their margins on their business, and will always try to break it down to a series of saws that they happen to either like to work on or they get the best margins. So these other generalizations, they're just basically bullshit, and they should be seen as that, you know, so don't get upset when you see it. But I'm going to tell you, you post that as a comment on my channel, I'm just going to delete it because I don't need that kind of spam. I really don't. And my customers, you know, the ones that are very happy with Husqvarna or even the Stills or even the Husqvarnas, they don't need those kind of absolutism type personalities trying to drive them to one side of the saw world or the other. I like all saws. If a Still's cool, I want to call it cool. If a Husqvarna works, I'm going to say it. Husky works, I'm going to say it. And I'm not going to get into that brand loyalty thing, and I'm not going to get into that builder loyalty thing. That's just crap. You know, they come and go. I can remember there was a couple down in Pennsylvania that came and went, and they were the online gurus, and then another group came along. I got to tell you, there is a couple of saw builders I've seen in the past that are true innovators. Two come to mind. The one they call Tree Monkey, that guy is a true innovator. He's the real deal. And there was a guy, I don't know if he still works on the saws, his name was Brad Snelling. He was another one who sort of dived into it. He had a technical type background, and he kind of dove into it a little more scientifically than the others. And he really developed some cool techniques, you know, and his saws are all strong. Others, you know, they market themselves better, but they basically derived a lot of their knowledge from some of these other ones. And doesn't mean they're bad builders or anything, but and just because they're great marketers with a big mouth, it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It's just what they do. Doesn't mean if you spend your money with them, you're going to get a bad product. Chances are a lot of those guys have honed their technique to the specific saws they want to work on to build that excellent ported saws, if that's what you want. But don't take anything any of them say, no matter how good they are as a builder on the stuff they want to work on, as gospel, because they're not manufacturers and they're not engineers. And the bottom line is this: they're taking somebody else's design and they're turning it into something different. That's what they do for a living. And they sell the idea online, people buy it, give money to them, and hopefully they're happy. But when they step out and start trying to be an engineer, well, the first question I ask is, have you ever designed a saw from begin to end? Have you ever designed a manufacturing process? And the answer is probably no. So you got to take them for what they are, you know. Well, that's my little thing for today. I'm looking at clouds coming in. I'm looking at a crap load of work. So I'm going to fire up the saws and get to work. Well, today I'm going to be back to the Holes Forma. And it's not because it's the best saw for the job, because I can argue that a 562 would be the best saw for this job. But it's a saw, and it will work. I might use a little more fuel and tire out a little bit more, but the time I have is about 4 hours. I can run it for 4 hours. I like my auto tunes because they just start so much easier. Alright, let's try this again, because the last time I did this, the G288 didn't really fare that well, and the 281 did, because it had a little bit better chain. Well, now both of them have got about the same amount of time on that chain, so I'm going to cut in that log right there a couple cookies, and then maybe on the other one we'll cut a couple just to see if it's the same. Well, here we go with that screwdriver thing. This is the difference between that generation saw and the Autotunes. I wouldn't have to mess with it. But it's about 20 degrees warmer than it was last time, if not more. Let's see what the hose former will do in the same log. 2 cuts, and then I'll go over to the other one. All right, this is a big tree, and that's a 28-inch bar, so you can see that that base is probably 28 to 30 inches across. So I'm going to try to use my 40-year-old 281 to fell this tree and have it go that way. That falls into the category of you win some, you lose some. And if you look a little bit further up the tree, I guess that's a split that had been developed for a long time. I didn't have a prayer on this one. I have a crap load of firewood now. Oh my God. So that's disappointing. What a mess to clean up. So I got to pull it out of here so I can get to the other trees. Well, this has been one of those days where pretty much nothing goes right. I broke the pull start on the hose former, so that's the second failure I've had on that. The oil pump being the first. That won't be hard to fix. That's also pretty much in line with what I've seen with that stuff for years. But I got to move this thing here. That's firewood. I got a bunch of trees I took down over here that are really all firewood. They're all dead. Just trying to make some room to get back. I was trying to get that big tree right there. Well, it went down and split right in half. And upon further inspection, I didn't have a prayer. It was split already. So I'm trying to get this last one down, and then my camera ran out of battery. I'm just not taking the hint, right? So if I can get it down, at least I'll pull one log. Cut that one log out. Of course, it wants to go back that way, and I want it to go this way. So I'm having to wedge it up and over, and but this thing here is a crying shame. But in retrospect, it didn't really have a prayer, because it's simply the way it grew. Probably was a lightning strike or something. But there was a crack that went right down the middle of the tree. And as soon as it hit the ground, it hit that one side. You know, it may have not split had it hit perfectly. But when it hit the one fork of the tree, you can see where it was already split. It's already, you can see it already down here. It was split down there as well. You know, so I got a bunch of firewood here. Damn. So this one right here is hung on the wedges in the back and on the hinges, so it's got 4 points of contact. And you can see I bore cut from the side, leaving about 3 inches right there. And then on the other side, same. Right about there. On the other side, right about there. And that's coming, I don't think there's any hold wood. I just think I have to hammer it over with the wedges. So let me just start beating on it with the axe. Go on. Tell me I'm going to have to double wedge this stupid thing. That's what I want to do. I like the stump to be like that. See how it broke down into the base versus up into the tree? You know, these broke down, pulled down versus up. That's what I'm looking for right there. That's a perfect cut for me. So I'm going to go cut out right at the crotch, and then we're going to hook onto it with the winch and pull this thing out of here.